Ever wonder why you can't resist that extra slice of cake or why you're always reaching for that cigarette? It's not just a lack of self-control or a weakness of character. It's about something much more complex, something deeply rooted in the intricate workings of our brains. Cravings are a universal experience. We all have them, whether it's for that sweet dessert or a relaxing evening puff. But what if I told you that these cravings are connected to the brain's reward system, a complex network that drives our desires and influences our actions? Yes, that's right, the brain is the mastermind behind these irresistible urges. It's a fascinating interplay between pleasure and need, desire and compulsion. But here's the million-dollar question. When does a simple craving transform into an addiction? When does it go from being a harmless desire to a destructive dependency? So when does a simple craving transform into an addiction? Let's explore. Cravings are a natural response from our brain. They're not just about the pleasure of eating a slice of cake or smoking a cigarette. Let's delve deeper into this fascinating world of cravings, shall we? You see, our brain is an intricate network of billions of neurons, and it's a little chemical called dopamine that plays a crucial role in this process. Dopamine is often referred to as the feel-good hormone, and rightfully so. When we engage in activities that we enjoy, such as eating our favorite food or spending time with loved ones, our brain releases dopamine, creating a sense of pleasure and reward. Now here's where things get interesting. When we repeatedly expose ourselves to a source of pleasure or reward, the brain starts to make a connection. It recognizes that a particular activity leads to the release of dopamine, and in turn, triggers a rewarding feeling. Consequently, our brain starts to crave that activity, urging us to repeat it. This is the basic science behind cravings. But it doesn't stop there. Over time, with repeated exposure, our brain starts to adapt. It becomes more efficient at producing dopamine in response to the same activity. This means that we may need to engage in the activity more frequently or intensively to achieve the same level of pleasure or reward. In other words, our cravings intensify. Interestingly, our brain's reward system doesn't distinguish between healthy and unhealthy sources of pleasure. Whether it's a slice of cake, a nicotine stick, or a workout session, the brain responds in the same way, releasing dopamine and creating a sense of reward. However, when we give in to our cravings excessively, especially for unhealthy substances or activities, we risk damaging our brain's reward system. We may find ourselves stuck in a vicious cycle where we need to continually increase our exposure to the substance or activity to satisfy our intensified cravings. Thus, the more we give in to our cravings, the stronger they become. But what happens when these cravings become excessive? Excessive cravings can lead to addiction, a condition that can cause immense suffering. This transition from cravings to addiction isn't a simple step. It's a dangerous journey where the brain and body are gripped by a need so powerful it begins to control an individual's life. Addiction isn't a moral failing or a lack of willpower, it's a disease, a chronic one that alters the brain's structure and functionality. It's about more than just the substance or activity, it's about the person and the environment they inhabit. The physical consequences can be dire: health problems, damaged relationships, even a shortened lifespan. But the psychological ones may be even more profound. Anxiety, depression, feelings of worthlessness. The toll on one's mental health is steep and potentially devastating. So the next time you reach for that extra slice of cake or cigarette, remember the science behind your cravings and the potential dangers of giving in. Today we've delved into the fascinating world of cravings and addiction. We've explored the intriguing nature of cravings, the biological and psychological forces that trigger them, and the role of dopamine in making us feel good when we give in to these cravings. We've also examined how these cravings can cross the line into addiction, a state where these desires become excessive and uncontrollable. This transition is not a matter of lack of willpower, but rather a shift in brain chemistry and function. The consequences of addiction, as we've seen, can be severe and far-reaching, affecting not just the individual but also their loved ones and society at large. Understanding the science behind our cravings and addictions can empower us to make healthier choices and seek help when needed. It's not just about flexing your willpower muscle, it's about understanding how our brains work and learning to navigate the complex landscape of our desires. Remember, it's not about willpower, it's about understanding how our brains work.